Welcome to the Speak with People podcast. My name is Jason Raitz. I'll be your host, and this podcast exists to help you improve your communication skills. Whether you communicate one-on-one, to a team, from a stage, or from behind a screen, we know that when we improve our communication skills as leaders, it exponentially changes everything. It improves our relationships, it improves our leadership skills, and it improves our business skills. So let's get ready to dive into this next episode. Well, how do you as a leader overcome your challenges? How do you as a leader in your business help your business and company overcome its challenges and then unlock your full potential? How do you figure out your strengths and challenges? They're all unique, and we all have a different time figuring those things out. But how do we get to the heart of those challenges and problems? Well, on today's Speak with People podcast, I am so excited. I'm beyond humbled to have two amazing guests joining us. They are a father-son duo, and they are helping so many businesses and leaders all over the place to be able to do just some of those questions. And I will let them tell you more about their story because their story is just so fascinating. And I've already learned so much from them, even in the short time we were off record on this call. So I've been looking forward to this podcast for a long time. And I just want to welcome Amit and Kumar. Thank you guys so much for being on the Speak with People podcast.
Thanks for having us on, Jason.
Thank you very much for having us, Jason. So it's going to be interesting how Amit communicates, but it's very relevant to our discussion here today. Amit had autism, and it still affects his independent speech. And so he types on a card. It is a laminated piece of plastic, 50-cent piece of laminated plastic that has led to him writing thousands of pages of white papers and running a human behavior advisory firm with clients around the world. But I'll let him explain how he uses this card, Jason. Jason, we are so grateful to be here with you. Someone who has clearly navigated the world of communication for impact. Thank you. I had autism, and as my dad said, it still affects my independent speech. I type on this card, and he reads what I am saying. When he sounds like a robot, that's him reading what I am saying. When he sounds half human, that's him speaking for himself. So we look forward to this conversation. Let's go, Jason.
Wow, absolutely incredible. How long did it take you guys to navigate this and figure this out? Because that's, truly remarkable.
Yeah. So we did not figure this out at all. The Institutes for Achievement of Human Potential, where my parents, having scoured the world for the best resources, they taught us this. And they taught my parents to teach me to read, which is one of those inflection points that each of us has in our own way. Reading was one of those for me. So they taught us to teach my wife and I to teach Amit to read. Once he got reading, he's read over 14,000 books by some of the greatest people who've ever lived. And he started writing as soon as he got access to this card. That card is actually how our business got started, because people found out he was writing white papers. Then they wanted it initially for free, then for pay, then for consultation. Then we'll talk about that as we go along. But yeah, so we did not invent this, Jason. You don't have to invent things to make them work for your lives, do we? The wheel, fire, yet leaders of businesses frequently act like they have to reinvent the wheel. Don't we all?
Wow. Wow. Isn't that a profound truth? Absolutely. Especially in this world in 2024, we all want to make a mark. We all want to have a platform. We want to be out, but there's really nothing new under the sun. And how can we utilize it the absolute best for our lives, business, and leadership? Such an important truth. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You know, many speak of nothing new under the sun. And I understand what that means. And yet, we have certainty that each of us is unique. Never was here, never will be here again, with a unique purpose. Therefore, since it is our unique perceptions that lay onto the fabric of the universe, does it not necessarily mean that there is new perspectives, new opportunities? Doesn't it, Jason?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And how many leaders are struggling? I mean, I talked with leaders all week long who are struggling with just what you spoke about. They forget that they are unique and they can step into that uniqueness and be them. So powerful. Absolutely powerful. So when it comes with your work with the Chintan Project, can you walk us through how that got started and what you do with working with leaders and businesses through your work with that?
I think that the things each of us values most arises for a reason. And just like each of us is purposed, a unique purpose, so too are our challenges purposed, uniquely purposed. How does that sit with you?
Well, I love it because I believe that 100%. And if we could help other leaders get to their purpose and understand it and sit in that, wow, what a world it would be.
And we'll come back to some of the reasons why we think we don't know our purpose later. But for now, may I share how my challenges helped us evolve and how we use that to help our clients evolve too.
Absolutely. Would love that.
I had a hunger to understand purpose even before I was born. I calculated that if I were here, there must be a reason. I don't know where I got that profound idea, but it has come to guide my life ever since. Purpose, reason for being. And I knew too. I had a medical problem before I was born and had physical pain. So that is why I started calculating, I think. Move forward, and I became convinced that there must be a reason I had these challenges, and that reason might just be tied to why I was here. So I moved next to try to navigate this world of autism, to figuring out how we humans tick, how we relate. At about the same time I was learning to read, and about the same time I was learning about business. So the way that Amit was learning about business was quite interesting, is that we were truly, my wife and I, searching the world to find the best resources to help a kid with medical troubles, severe developmental delay, autism spectrum. And as you may well be aware, Jason, that costs money. And so you at that time I was a practicing physician, and so on salary at the university I was moving up the academic ladder, and pay is defined by how much service you trade, how much labor you trade, and then for many people how much time they trade. So there was a cap on how much I could earn, and I was not going to pay for autism care, especially not traveling the world to find it, right? So we did what so many, especially business owners do, is that we speculate, and we speculated and lost big. And so when you lose big, what do? Well, you got to make it back fast, don't you? So, so you go speculate more, right? So we actually, in the course of searching for how do we make it back, there was a gentleman named Bill Bortman who was teaching personal development, but having run a massive Fortune 50 company before the SEC shut him down. And then by the time the SEC withdrew the claim saying there was no grounds to pursue you, his business was lost, right? We've seen that story before. So he was teaching personal development, and my wife and I wanted to attend because here was a guy who knew business and who knew personal development, and so we were going to go, right? And but we had no one to take care of this squawky autistic kid. So so we made a deal with Bill Bartman that if he would let us bring Amit to the class, if he so much as squeaked, we'd be out of there. We would not disrupt his classes. And so he allowed Amit to attend personal development classes, business classes at, by that time, a 3-year-old autistic kid. And I learned, Jason, I had learned by then a few levers that move the world. One was learning. And I learned from Mr. Bill Bartman that business was one of the levers to move the world. I have spent so much of my life hence with this bias that business is a tool to move the world. And I was learning it from someone who understood that we, the leader, we, the leader, are the ones who set. We think the rules, but in truth, the culture and the direction. If you will, as Elon Musk said, if you want to get from A to B, that is a vector, a quantity of something with a direction, both. And leaders bring that to bear, then we try to work with other humans to align our vectors so we increase the quantity, the mass, and we focus the direction. That is what we do as business owners. So I leveraged lessons like this with some of the works of the greatest thinkers who ever lived and put that to work on behalf of business owners. They were my people. They still are my people. And I have invested, and my family has now invested so much of their lives helping solve the people problems that occur at the ownership level of businesses. Partner problems, personal problems, family, divorce problems. Then here's what's interesting. We noticed that we humans get more frazzled and more uncertain about this vector thing when we are having difficulties coping with stress. And one of the more stressful times is at the start of business and when we are looking to exit a business. So we were finding that so many of our clients were having challenges around the time of sale. And Jason, if there is blood in the water, the sharks come out, don't they? So we evolved. One client said, "You guys are like SEAL Team 6. You come in, solve the problem, and go away before people even knew you were here." it was important to us that our clients get the credit for what they had solved. So we would literally get out of the way before investors knew, sometimes before our partners knew, definitely before the boards knew. We'd be in, we'd be out, we'd go. They'd have their issues sorted out, and then be able to sell more effectively. That then led, Jason, to us helping sellers being recruited onto a buying board to help make deals happen. And then most recently, over the past couple of years, we have been acquiring businesses ourselves. So Chintan has evolved and evolved because the marketplace was asking us to.
Sure.
I think as businesses choose these vectors we talked about, there is that intersection of circles, isn't it? Where we are called and where we are called to serve, where our customers need us. That intersection is key. Jim Collins talked about that among other things. But for our purposes here today, focused on purpose itself, I think this suffices.
Wow. Wow. Absolutely. How has the dynamic been with a family-owned business? I mean, I'm sure the challenges are different, but working together as a family, has it been exhilarating? Has it had seasons of challenge? Walk us through that.
So here's an interesting thing. Within the US, there are some stats, and stats are stats, but there's some stats that say 87% of American business are family owned. And we have argued that family owned might not be the appropriate metric. Family controlled might be what we're more interested in. If what we are going to talk about is what proportion of American business are family controlled, it's actually pretty darn close to 100. And here's why. Even the President of the United States has got a spouse that they lean on. And over the course of even relatively recent history, we know of the role that powerful White House spouses have played in American policy. And so if the President of the United States, if the presidency of the United States is more family controlled than we might be willing to at first admit, what does that mean for a small, a medium, a large business? And so family exerts a much greater level of control on businesses. Family are also a source of support and of challenge. So we argue that it is inappropriate to work with a business without at least some implicit, if not explicit, acknowledgement of the circles of influence on the leaders. So I mean, we have in a long way explained that family has been very important to how we have evolved as a business, and my role has evolved too. And let me give you an example. Initially, when Amit had medical troubles predominantly, or at least that's all we could see with medical problems initially, I focused on leveraging sort of medical career. I focused on leveraging access and knowledge on healthcare to get him resources. And on the surface, that might seem like, oh, that's obvious. You had access to higher quality care. But here's the challenge, is that we ended up choosing to leave the conventional system to help Amit. And I can almost guarantee that I had greater challenges as I chose to, Amit has called it the road less traveled. I can almost guarantee that I had greater challenges as I chose to leave the well trodden path, to look for resources for my kid, than somebody who was not a physician. My wife is an organic chemist and was teaching organic chemistry at the time. She is sort of like the ultimate nerd when it comes to science stuff, right? And we were going to go we were going to go and do this less traveled road, Emmett says. So you can imagine how much challenge that brought on. In fact, when I found out about the IHP, it took about a year before Pratima would even read the book that would allow us to be considered to go to the classes where we could get help. Because she said, when there's blood in the water, the sharks come out. And you, Kumar, are a desperate daddy. And yes, I was. And that's okay too. Let your hunger be your guide in some cases. And that brings us back, Jason, to where I started with purpose of challenge. That challenge is frequently the source of hunger, isn't it? And so let hunger be your guide might be an okay but not very salesy tagline for this podcast. Because that is one of the roles that challenge plays. We humans evolve most efficiently, most effectively at the border of support and challenge. Yet we think that it is preferable to run away from challenge. We think, Jason, you talk about healthy and unhealthy communication. And part of what you speak about is in so many ways the being kind piece. Yet, Jason, how many business leaders, how many owners of businesses, how many CEOs of even large global behemoths don't credit challenge with how and why they are and they can do what they do? Why is it that we are so consumed with supposedly making life easy for our people? I don't say make it deliberately hard, but I do wonder if our politically correct focus on ease, on smooth, robs us of the gifts of the stormy seas. Please don't, audience, go break any HR rules and sue Jason. That's not what we are saying. But know that as the leader, there are times when tough is okay.
Wow. Absolutely. What an incredibly powerful truth, because we're so often taught complacency or the luxury of easiness. And I absolutely love that challenge to leaders to be all right with the season of struggle, the season of pain, and have the hunger to figure out the problems and move through it. That is a profound and powerful truth. Thank you for that. Wow. I love that. Could you speak with to resiliency for a minute? You know, it seems like in 2024 and beyond, business leaders, companies, really need sometimes a boost of resiliency in how they can continue to kind of take those steps forward instead of throwing in the towel or just being okay with the status quo. How can someone kind of step into a resilient mindset and overcome some of those obstacles and setbacks?
So let's think about it this way. Each of us, in our own ways, is resilient for the things that are most important to us. One of the things that is most important to you, Jason, is your family, isn't it?
Yes.
And just off the little that we could find on the website and off what you've said to us, you, your wife, are incredibly resilient in that regard. You're 100 and some podcasts aired. That isn't easy. Having a conversation with people like us could scare you away for a while. So you've been resilient. You've stuck with things, and you've stuck with it through thick or thin, right?
Yes.
And so if each of us in our own way has the seeds and the demonstrated track record of resilience, that we apparently lose it is where the challenge is. Does that make sense?
Yes. Absolutely.
And I would argue that apparent loss of resiliency is more to do with losing the path than with some deficit of our humanity or personality. It is a loss of direction, a loss of connection between where we are supposedly going and what is most important for our life. It is that loss of connection, that breaking of the link, that is the fundamental issue. You will, each of us will, either do what we love or love what we do. One of my teachers, Dr. John DeMartini, has taught me that. And so often as we lose the love, can't see the love of what we do, we blame all kinds of things, including humanity and personality and generational change and all kinds of potent nonsense. Instead, how about it be that one of the jobs of the leader is to put mass quantity towards a direction and help his or her people see how that matters to them. Help them reconnect with their own purposes. There is no degradation in humanity.
Wow. It's not often on the podcast that I need to sit for a second and process, because That is powerful. That is, I mean, leaders need that message. They need that encouragement. They need that challenge, and that is something that I can't wait for our listeners to hear this conversation and watch this conversation, because that's you're speaking to the heart of many leaders right now.
So I think that we, as a society, pay engineers a lot of money to stress test our structures, and often to stress test those structures even before they are built, don't we? I have been blessed. My family has been blessed to have some of the greatest minds stress test our thinking. And I devote so much of my studies, my own thinking time, as Keith Cunningham calls it. I devote so much of it to stress testing my own thinking. And in Chintan Project, we seek to do the same for our clients. And even after we have acquired a business, we seek to instill that humility, that humility to IJs, to thinking, to different ways of thinking. Because even though they say there is nothing new under the sun, we know that each of us is here with a unique purpose, a unique reason for being that grants unto us a unique perspective. And that perspective opens doors, Jason, opens doors. Being you is the key.
Wow.
Just so you know, Amit almost broke my little plastic card.
He was passionate. That is powerful. That is incredibly powerful. And I know, I mean, for me, that's spoke deeply even to my own journey with our business. Our business is a year and a half old. Speak with people, and the podcast is part of the business, but primarily we do corporate training and we help leaders in companies become better, stronger, healthier communicators. And it's been already such a ride. And I, I almost feel if, as you thought about this podcast episode, if you were some of your truth that you just spoke and incredible wisdom was geared right towards me, because I'm taking furious notes, because it's just so powerful, and I can't thank you enough. This is
It
it's
would
just
be our
amazing.
hope that we have been able to contribute to the lives, the heads, and the hearts of your audience too.
Yes, absolutely. Well, before we turn the corner and end the podcast, I wanted to ask you, we're building an ever-growing library. It's just a online document that hosts the kind of the best of from all of our podcast guests, and then just a different array of books and podcasts and YouTube videos. Wondered if you all would have a speaker, or is there a communicator that you would highly recommend leaders to make sure that they get on their radar?
Well, I think that the speakers who have made the greatest impact on my life are the ones who have allowed themselves to think differently. And so it isn't their words, it isn't their style, it isn't their energy and stage. it's that they were humble enough in their own way to think differently, and then to be courageous enough in their own way to share that with the world, because it takes both, doesn't it? And so for me, one that comes to mind as you asked, that would be Albert Einstein. Not too many people will think of him as a speaking coach. He was no Nancy Duarte, right? But but even Jason Wright. But I think he taught differently, and that was part of his humility. And I think he had the courage to say what it was that he was thinking. So for me, that would be it. And for me, for his impact on my life, and because he is still very much alive, Mr. Bill Bartman has died. The person I would choose would be Dr. John DeMartini, whom we mentioned earlier. And so rather than a book or a piece of writing, or like, these are people who have made a lasting impact on our lives. And so that's why we're courageous enough to offer those up.
I love that. I love that. Those are fantastic. And I know they'll be a huge resource and blessing. And both of you, I can't thank you enough for this time. This has been so filling. You both have just poured yourselves out with such wisdom and truth. And I just can't wait for this episode to air for our listeners. Before I do let you go, where is the best place online we can send our audience to go find out more information? And we'll make sure we post this, and we'll put this in our Speak with People community Facebook group, as well as we tell our listeners and audience all about you both.
Thank you very much for agreeing to do that, Jason. ChintanProject.com. So CHINTAN project.com. Our website, we have got, if you thought that the way we think might be intriguing here, we have a little bit more space to write about that on the website. So there is information from us. You can actually see Amit using this card, and know that he is working hard to independently communicate. So the next time you see him, he might be speaking with his own voice to a live audience. He's working on that very diligently. If you will, Jason, let hunger be your guide. Remember your subtitle. and I am hungry to share with the world.
I love it. Thank you so much, Amit. Thank you, Kumar. I really appreciate this time, and we just can't thank you enough. Appreciate it.
We'd love to connect with your audience on ChintanProject.com. Thank you very much, Jason.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Jason.
Well, thank you for joining us on another episode of the Speak with People podcast. We hope that you were encouraged. We hope that you were inspired and challenged to improve your communication skills. I want to thank you again for being a part of the Speak with People podcast community. Make sure you don't miss out on being a part of the Speak with People Facebook community group. Just head to Facebook, type in Speak with People, scroll down, and join our community, because every single day we're encouraging each other, we're helping each other to improve our communication skills. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next episode.